Hi there. Before I get to the episode, I want to take a moment to address the June 24th Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. This decision stripped away the legal right to have a safe and legal abortion. Restricting access to comprehensive reproductive care, including abortion, threatens the health and independence of all Americans. This decision could also lead to the loss of other rights. To learn more about what you can do to help, go to podvoices.help. I encourage you to speak up, spread the word, and please take care. Now on to the conversation. Hello, anybody there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Awesome.
Yeah, so officially this is going to be CRUZFEST.
I know. There's nothing ever wrong with the CRUZFEST.
That's right. So let's talk a little bit of advertising, screenwriting, and a little bit of everything, shall we?
Sure, that sounds great.
Okay. Let's take a look. Let's go back to when you first started getting into creativity and storytelling. Do you remember when you were younger the first times that you realized that you wanted to do creative work?
I mean, if I go back way back, this may sound silly, but like my mom, she decided to do a circus for the kids in the neighborhood, and yeah, and we were gonna sell tickets, and she did little she had us do different acts, and it was just in the driveway, but we sold tickets and put chairs up, and she did our face paint, and she had us all do different things, and I was like a tightrope walker on the ground, but I was a tightrope walker. Don't ask how. But kids came to see it, so I think that was kind of I don't know how old we were, but probably second grade, maybe. We were little, and then
Yeah.
as far as writing, I think I wrote my first play when I was 8.
Mm.
And I didn't know that that wasn't something everybody did. I just was like, I feel like writing a play, you know? So, and it wasn't until, as an adult, I look back and I think, wow, that's really young to be like, I'm going to write something, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I remember in 8th grade writing something, and when you're in, school and you have to read something out loud in English class. And when I didn't know I wrote anything special, and I just got to the end and the whole class went, oh, and I looked around like, what? And it was just again, no one really told me hey, you've got this writing thing about you. Nobody even gave me a hint.
Yeah.
And so, but I look back and I think, wow, those were 2 pivotal moments that I wish there had been somebody that said, you're a writer, And I started even in middle school. I was doing the theater. I was doing the acting classes. I was taking, I'm from LA, so I was taking CSUN had these drama classes for teenagers, and I was doing that, and I was doing musical theater, and I was getting into dance, and
Mm-hmm.
so so I had all that, that I was doing, but it just never dawned on me that that was something I could ever do for a living. So
Right.
um,
So your family wasn't in the industry, or were they active
yeah.
in the arts in any
No,
way?
gosh, no. But the interesting thing is we have a lot of musicians in the family. So
Mm.
a lot of my cousins did musical theater, but just for fun. Nobody, we did have
Yeah.
a uncle, and I think he was a jazz musician, with some famous jazz musician. But again, it wasn't I didn't realize that I had no one to help me get into the industry. I wish I
Sure.
did. I really
I know,
wish I
right?
did. No, because I think gosh, how come someone didn't tell me that this was, you're from LA and you think, oh, of course you should get in the entertainment industry, and it never even crossed my mind.
Yeah, and it's interesting because those big cities in particular, they work in microcosms, right? Like you have
Yeah,
your own area that may not have anything to do with the industry, but when somebody thinks of LA,
yeah,
it's like, oh, obviously the movies. That's what
right,
everyone's
yeah,
doing. So,
right.
how did you go from writing and doing those kinds of fun things to advertising? I'm curious where that leap kind of took
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, well, I was a psychology major at UCLA, and I would even walk past the film department. I didn't even think anything about it. I was so close, right? And I just because again, I didn't know people did it as a job. I don't know who I thought made movies and TV shows. I have no idea. It didn't cross my mind. And so I was going to be a either child psychologist, or I wanted to open up a corporate daycare.
Mm.
And I was like a camp counselor in college, and so I loved working with children, and so that was really my goal when I was a psychology major. I loved, again, psychology is a great degree for writing, so it
Yeah.
wasn't like it was waste, you know?
Yeah.
Because I love understanding how people do things and who they are. I just love, like,
Mm.
peeling that onion, you know?
Mhm.
And so I got my degree at UCLA, and then I was going to get a master's. I was going to take a year off, and my dad's like, "Hey, you have a degree. How about getting a job?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm taking a year off." He's like, "You can still have a job." So I was like, "Well, what do I do for that year?" Right? Because it was just
Mm.
supposed to be a year, a gap year, and I loved watching commercials. I always loved watching commercials, and like the jingles, and I just grew up singing all that, and I had favorite TV shows, but like commercials really seemed to catch my attention, and I would walk
Mm.
around the house singing jingles all the time. And so my dad's like, "Do you like advertising? Why not a job there?" So it literally was
Right.
supposed to be a year stopover. That was it. And the minute I started, I just started as like a receptionist, and then I became a creative assistant. And it was just supposed to be like, no, this is just my year off. And I saw the creatives, I saw the writers and the art directors, and they were
Mm.
just loud and obnoxious and funny, and they were having fun. And I was like, who are those people, and how do I get that job? So that's kind of where I started, and I started taking copywriting classes at a place called the Bookshop, and they're still around. And I even ended up teaching there after I became a copywriter.
Mm, cool.
And yeah, they're a great place for people that want to be copywriters, ad writers. They have a great program. And so I started there, and I won an award when I first started. And it was like, all right, this is fun. This is a job. Again, still not realizing people did TV shows and film for writing. I still didn't get that. So
Yeah.
once I started to get the hang of that, and I was starting to work in that, I found the book The Artist's Way, which so many
Oh,
screenwriters,
yes.
right? Great book, amazing book. And I tell all screenwriters you must read it. And so I was reading it, and there was a section that she said copywriters are really screenwriters. They're writers that want to be screenwriters. I was like, we are. And so I was like, well, I guess I better take a screenwriting class, because I better figure this out. Am I? And so, I took a class, my first class at UCLA Extension, and it was like the heavens parted for me. It just was
Mhm.
like calling, like I just
Yeah.
knew, and so while I was doing advertising, I just started taking more classes and writing more scripts, and I was hooked. It got me.
Yeah.
So, I still am a copywriter, but I write screenplays on the side, and that's kind of, I've been juggling both ever since, basically.
And it seems like the perfect pairing because, just
Yeah.
going back to advertising as a profession, I mean, one of the things that I appreciate so much is that ability for you guys to just make everything so concise and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
specific that I mean,
Mhm.
that can't not be like a perfect pairing for screenwriting because it's
I
literally the same
know.
thing, huh?
Yeah, I hear that all the time, and also for ideas, like, especially for, like, TV writing, like, you're just constantly, "How about this? How about that? How about this?"
Yeah.
And that's what I do as a copywriter all day long. We are just like, they'll be like, "We want 3 ideas." So 3 ideas means here's 20 ideas, so you can kill 17 of them, right?
Yeah.
So and then we get feedback, we get notes, we get told no all the time, which is what film and TV writing are. So, like, I don't mind if someone tells me, "Nope, next, change this, change." I'm like, "Okay, okay, okay." Like, I have no problem getting notes. Whereas I've seen, a lot of screenwriters, that are just like, "Don't tell me to change this." And it's like, "I'm trying to help you improve it."
Right,
So I
right.
feel like it really has been really, really
Yeah.
helpful.
It definitely sounds like an apprenticeship and rolling with the punches, that
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
people need to get a taste of that for sure. So,
for sure.
did you start getting into short films through, like, collaborations or meeting people, or did you just focus on writing full-length screenplays initially?
I started with features, because they always say, "Write what you love," right? And I think at the time, I was watching way more movies than I was watching TV. That's not the case, and it hasn't been for a long time. But at the time when I started, I think I was like, I loved going to the movie theater, that whole
Mhm.
experience of, like, just And for me, like, this is, I think, like pre-streaming. So it's a little easier now when you can watch everything on your computer. But at the time, like, my writing time was, I was missing a lot of TV shows. Like, I couldn't pick and choose. It was like you're either watching TV shows or you're writing. And so for me, I could do the writing at night when TV shows were on after work, right?
Hmm.
So I had to choose, and so I was watching more movies at like when I first started writing. And so I started with features, and then the short films. I think what happened was I was in, I've been in so many writing groups, and at the time I was in this one writing group that met in Malibu. And a friend of mine, I don't know why, we would just, he was just a friend there, and I don't know why I wrote a short film, and I just said, "Hey, let me know what you think about this short film." And then he's like, "Oh, hey, this is cool. I really like this. Do you want to pitch short films to Disney?" I was like, yeah." Yeah, like, I just happened to write a short film, so then he asked me, like, and so again, like my screenwriting, my advertising background, I was just like, "How about this idea? How about that idea? How about
Yeah.
this idea?" I had so many ideas for him, and he's like, "Oh my god, this is great." And so that was like the first short film I sold, and it was Disney at the time was trying to do live action. So they were trying to compete with like the Pixar division,
Mm.
and they were looking to enter them, like put them before some of their feature films.
All
And
right.
when you, yeah, so then when you play them in the movie theaters, then you can enter them in like Academy Award competition type things. So that
Oh,
was
okay.
kind of what they were hoping to do. Yeah. So we were like one of like 20 teams. Only three teams sold something, and we were one of 20 teams that sold something.
Mm.
And we didn't have an agent. We were the only team that didn't have agents at the time. So I was kind of proud of ourselves for that.
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful. And I love this approach or this plan of attack that you have because it's less about waiting for the inspiration, more like I have the brand, right? We have to
Yeah.
come up with something that matches their identity, that matches what they're looking for. And you sort
Mhm.
of formulate things around that. Is that kind of how that kind of originates when you're pitching something like that?
Um, you mean like why, like how did I know what to pitch to them, or was
What's your barometer when you're pitching to a company like
yeah,
that?
yeah, I mean, I do try to, like, think, like, what would this company like, because you definitely know what they're interested in, but you also have to pitch what you're interested in, and it's interesting because I don't know if they ever end up making any of them. Like, our film, I guess they had feature films that were similar. That's the thing with pitching to a big
Mm,
company like that. They bought it, and then, like, they have to go through the whole Disney and, like, find out, like, "Oh, what's being made?" And there was a feature film that was similar to ours, so it didn't end up getting made.
mm.
And then the one, I don't know if they ever made, but the one that, like, looked like they were gonna made was, like, this asteroid thing. So you just never know because it's like, "Oh, wow, I would not have thought of that," you know? So
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah.
it thinking of what the studio wants may not be the right answer either. So I don't know, I just kinda write what inspires me.
Mm.
I don't think Disney, I would have done, like, a horror thing,
Yeah, yeah,
but,
for sure.
who knows? I don't know. I just write what I feel inspired to write. I just come up with ideas and, hope for the best.
Yeah, so get that leads me kind of to think about your writing process and how that typically works. So obviously, you have the mechanics of it from your advertising job, but how does a writing session typically work for you, or how do you gather and put together your work?
I mean, and now I would say, so I have a new writing partner, and I knew him through both our kids played hockey, so he coached my son in his first hockey team, and he had sold more films than I had made more films made, and so
Mm,
I wasn't going to ask to work with him because I kind of felt like, oh, you're above me in writing, like.
sure.
So I was kind of waiting for him. I don't know why. I just always knew we were going to work together. I don't know why. And then a couple I don't know why. I just knew. And he was working with his brother at the time, and I was writing with someone else at the time. And then we both were writing on our own. And then he just reached out to me a couple years ago and said, "Hey, can you meet for lunch?" And then he's like, "I have an idea." And then I said to my husband, "Here we go." Like, I just knew. I
Huh.
don't know why. I knew.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then we met for lunch. He's like, "I have this idea," and I loved it. I was like, "I'm in, I'm in, I'm in." And yeah, and so we had Josephson Entertainment attached at one point, and Miranda Bailey, who's a big producer and director. She wanted to direct it,
Mm,
so that was exciting. And it fell through during the pandemic. But what I was going to say, and why I'm saying that is, like, I think now with him, because we don't write everything together, but like, so now I kind of will be like, "Hey, what ideas do you like?" And I'm the one with all the ideas. It's not that he doesn't have ideas, but I'm like, how about this? Do you want to work on
Yeah,
this?
yeah,
I want to constantly, and he's like, oh my gosh, you are just like an idea machine. I'm like,
yeah.
I know. So whatever excites me, but like he at least has to say yes to it now if it's something we're going to work on together. So,
Sure, but it seems like you have a good understanding of what each partner brings into that writing relationship, and I'm
yeah,
curious
yeah,
how you determine that, or how do you find that balance, because it's not like you
yeah.
go up to a stranger and you say, "Oh, well, I got these tons of ideas, maybe you should do something with them," or it seems like there was an organic balance, or did you have to work
Yeah.
to that?
Yeah, I think there was an organic balance, and I think that's why we're a really good team
Mm,
because I think at least for me, I'm not sure if every writing partner team would say this, but it definitely feels like a marriage when you're working with somebody, and so you
mhm,
have to like you know, you don't want to be the one that's always like, this is, we're going to do it my way.
yeah,
You definitely give them that breathing room and that freedom to make mistakes. Cause like there's times where I might be like, I don't know if I agree with that decision. And then, but I have
sure.
to let him make that choice. And then maybe our manager or the producer will go, nah, or my writing group might be like, nah, and
Yeah,
so it's sometimes I have to let him do that, and he lets me do that. Like a
mhm,
writing group or manager might say no to some of my ideas.
right.
So I think that's how what works for us. But we both like don't like if someone rewrites each other, neither of us gets our feelings hurt. We're just like so it's very we get along really well as far as
Mhm.
being a writing. So I think that makes it really easy.
Yeah, so it's certainly a matter of setting the ego aside and saying, "Hey, look, this is all
Yeah.
for the benefit of the script or the story that we're trying to
uh,
tell
For
collectively."
sure. Yeah,
And
for sure. Yeah.
yeah, that leads me to ask you about Five Weddings. Is that the film that you guys worked on recently?
So that is not in front of me, but I think that came out in at Cannes in 2018. I
Mhm.
think I have that correct. So
Yeah.
I wrote that like 14 years
Oh,
ago.
wow. Wow. Can you tell me how that started, or how that went
Yeah.
from the written page to a feature film that went all the way over to Cannes?
Yeah, yeah. So the same friend that I was pitching the shorts to and sold the short with, his name is Andy Glickman. His friends call him Glickens, so I was calling him Glickens, but it's Glickman. Don't want to get the name wrong. And so I had been traveling. I've traveled a lot. I've traveled extensively, and I had been in India, and I wrote a script based on my trip there. And so, he had read that script, and so he was working with the producer of Five Weddings on something else, and he said, "Hey, she's looking for someone to write a movie that's set in India, and I know you have a script on India. Are you interested?" I was like, "Sure."
Mhm.
And so she read my script and she's like, "Oh, cool. Okay. I was in India for about a month." And so she felt I understood, what it's like there and the environment and some of the cultures. And so she felt, and from India, but lives here. So she felt, obviously with her input, she felt we could do it.
Yeah.
So I wrote that script. She needed it in 2 weeks,
Oh, wow.
which is yeah, which is
Yeah.
insane, and it took 14 years to make, so did she need it in 2 weeks? I don't know. I was like, "All right, 2 weeks, there's no skin off my back, I can write" and it was insane, it was, like, the fastest script I've ever written, and,
Oh, man.
I would recommend it. I wrote the outline in 2 days, so a whole outline for because she just had the idea, she didn't have
Mm.
anything else. She said, "I want it to be a woman who works in fashion and a fashion magazine," or not even if she had magazine, worked in fashion, goes to India and falls in love with someone and they completely clash. And I don't even know if she knew he was a policeman yet. So I think she was just like, and he's in India, and I was like, okay. And so I had to come up with every character, everything
Oh,
in,
wow.
yeah, so it was crazy. And so I just thought, all right, if you write the outline in a weekend, that gives you, I think it was like 10 pages a day for 10 pages a day or something like that.
Ooh.
It's exhausting. It wasn't
Yeah.
fun. It was exhausting. And the crazy thing is I was putting on a benefit at the same time for Darfur at the time because I just felt like I needed to help somebody somewhere. Like
Sure.
so I was doing this all by myself too. So it was kind of a crazy time. And I had like migraines. I don't even have migraines. And I had migraines like every night. And I was like, oh my God, this is insane. So
Oh, man.
I don't recommend doing both of those things at the same time. So, but she was busy on all this other stuff and it just never really was going to happen. And I just didn't even believe her. So finally, like, she was like, um, I'm, ready to make this. And I was like, sure you are. And so I didn't believe her, you know. So we were, rewriting it and getting it ready for script for the screen and to get produced. And then she asked, because the movie she was working on with Andy was just not going to get produced. And she's like, do you mind if we bring on Andy for like the last rewrite? I was like, I don't care, so he could get a credit. I was like, I don't mind. He's my friend. I don't care.
Yeah.
So he came on and helped us with like the final script pass.
Mm.
And then he actually shot it. And I was like, oh my God, it's getting made.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
So, and kudos to her. She got it to Cannes and, it played in 52 countries. So
That's
it did
amazing.
play in yeah, it played in Burbank, so, like, I got, like, maybe 30 friends and family came and watched it with me opening night, so it was fun to have people watch my first movie with me, even though I was very stressed about it, because I hadn't seen it before anybody, so my first time to watch it was with everybody, so
Oh, wow.
it
Yeah.
was kinda stressful. I wish I
Yeah,
had
I
seen
mean,
it.
did you feel like that was sort of a benchmark thing that you had to do, or like some kind of dream fulfilled when that happened? Or was it like, wow, this is really cool, but now we got to move on to the next thing? How was that?
Um, I don't know, it's kind of funny because it's like I'm maybe about to direct my first short, and
Oh,
I think whenever I see people direct my stuff, it's been really hard for me. Like it's hard as a writer when you have a vision and then someone else has a different vision.
mm,
So I think that's why it was kind of stressful. And like everyone's like, "Oh my God, you should be so excited! Your movie played in theaters!" And like I don't know, like it didn't feel the way I thought it would feel.
oh, okay.
So yeah, like and I knew everyone was so excited for me, and I don't know. It was like
Right,
it wasn't
right.
what it just I wanted it to be different. I don't know. And so
Yeah,
I knew everyone was so happy for me, so I had to like set aside any of my judgments of what I was gonna think about it, and I had
sure.
to just be like I had to let myself enjoy the moment because it was really hard for me to enjoy the moment. And
Yeah,
so everybody was so happy for me and my friends and family, we love it, we love it, love it. And I was like,
right.
oh, do you? Like I was doubting myself. Like I get
Mm,
why actors are insecure now when like they criticize themselves because I was criticizing myself. Like so
sure,
I don't know, it's hard. It was hard to enjoy it. Like I said,
for
I wish I
sure.
had seen it first. I think that might have been a little bit easier to
Right.
enjoy myself with my friends and family. But so I let myself enjoy it. I just put everything aside about what I thought about it and just
Yeah.
let myself enjoy it. So
So, if I may ask, from when you wrote those initial drafts of the script to production, were there drastic changes that happened in the story, or how many iterations after that did you guys end up with on the finished product?
gosh, so many. I mean, I was only gonna write that first draft. That was it. I wanted to be done after that. And then so Naomi, the producer, was like, all right, I'll bring on this other writer. And then she'd bring on this other writer, and then she'd be like, oh, I don't like it. Do you mind looking at it? And I'd be like, oh, I don't like it either. And it's not, the writers aren't bad, but like again, you have this vision of it.
Yeah,
So I get when like writers, like big film writers, when they get rewritten, like it doesn't mean a writer's not good. It just means you have this vision and someone else has another vision and it just might not align with yours. So then I'd be like, oh, fine, let me do another rewrite. And then I would do another rewrite. And then she'd be like, do you mind doing another rewrite? And I'd be like, no, I'm done. I'm done. And then she'd give it to someone else. And then she'd be like, oh, I don't know if I like it as much. And then I'd look at it and be like, oh gosh. And then I'd come on board again. So I don't even know how many times. Yeah, I don't even know how many times it got rewritten. A lot. It was a lot.
oh goodness. Well,
Yeah.
it seems like at the very least you got that premiere out of your system, right? And now you feel like, oh, I've gone through the process, through the whole cycle, beginning, middle, and end, and now you
Yeah.
can move on with a bit more experience or perspective on what it is that you actually want to do, which is amazing. So, can can you tell me about this project, the short film that you want to direct, that you're gearing up for, if that's possible, or if it's still under wraps?
Um, I mean, I don't wanna talk about it too
Oh,
much.
okay. Let's keep it under wraps then.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just it's 'cause it's I mean, again, I don't know. I guess I wanna show people it before I talk about it, I think.
Sure. So let's do this. Can I ask you what intrigues you about directing specifically? What are you looking forward to with the
Again,
opportunity
I
to
think
direct?
it's because whenever I've seen my stuff directed by other people, it's not my vision. It wasn't, I never really thought I wanted to be a director writer. It really wasn't. I never thought that I needed to be.
Mm,
Um, I think if a director came on board that I guess saw my writing the same way I saw it, I think I'd be like,
yeah.
oh, perfect. This is great. This is exactly how I see it. Um, but they have to put their take on it too, of course. So I think because I don't know, maybe I'm a control person. I don't know, but like I'm like, what happened to this scene? Or how come that's the actor you chose? And again, I know there's like budget, issues and all of that comes into play, but you just have this vision for it. And then when you don't see it, you're like, oh, well, maybe I would have done that differently.
Right.
So
Right.
that just makes me interested in at least trying it and seeing how it turns out.
Awesome. Looking forward to that and see how it pans out. Got a couple more questions to be mindful of your time, but I want
Mhm.
to segue real quick to screenwriting competitions, as I know that you're an award-winning screenwriter in that regard. Can you tell me what your thoughts are on the screenwriting competition circle and whether that's a worthy endeavor for somebody who's starting out in the screenwriting
That's a good
realm?
question. It's a good question. I mean, I will say I haven't won any of them. I have placed.
Hey, that
Um,
I still count those. I think those are very much worth it.
yeah, but like, I think, and again, I don't want to, downplay any of the contests or downplay anything when someone has won,
Mhm.
but there's so many of them. So my take would be enter the ones that people know, because I think a lot of them are just taking money and aren't helping anybody. So, I think you just have to, and I just think I don't know if new writers should enter them. I think new writers should be in writing groups and get better. And if you really want to throw your money somewhere, I would say wait until you are getting good feedback, because I think the problem is I was actually a judge for a contest once,
Mm,
and so many of the scripts, it's not that the writers aren't good, they're just not good yet. And
mm,
like some of these scripts would be 20, 30 pages and nothing was happening, like nothing.
mm.
And, you know, you don't want to be that. You're just
Yeah,
throwing your money away. So that's why I think it's more important to, you know, really hone your craft before you start entering them. So at least if you're going to spend money on some of this stuff, you're going to have a better chance of placing. But I have friends that in some contests they've even won. They've come in first place in some really reputable contest. Nothing has happened for them.
mhm, right.
So I think you can't hang your hat on that. And like for me, I'm getting a lot of momentum, and it's not because of contests. I think it's just like I said, writing groups are very valuable, and
Mhm,
and get feedback and get notes and just keep writing and just keep getting better. And
right.
just for me, I'm starting to just query a lot more. I have a manager, but I'm doing a lot of the querying myself, and I'm getting places with it. So
Nice. So, how would one go about if somebody's starting out in this process, how would one go about finding a good group? Is there a way that that can be done online, or is this something that just has to happen in person?
that's a good question. Luckily with Twitter, obviously there's a lot of people that are on there that, there's a lot of screenwriters. So I think if people are, in the writing community, you can just, hashtag or start following them or start asking around. And I think people have to not worry about their first writing group being the end all be all, because I've been in so many writing groups. And each time I've gotten better and better and better, like
Mm,
my first writing group, I definitely sucked. And then eventually I was like, I think I'm a little bit better than this and I'm not learning anymore. Or then I was joining another writing group and maybe they weren't writing as much. Then I was like, okay, they're good, but they're not writing as much as me. And you just have to find, just keep getting better and keep moving around until you find the writing group that suits you. And again, you outgrow them sometimes, and that's fine too. I think the trick is just getting feedback.
mm,
You have to, and you have to make sure it's positive, not positive feedback, but supportive feedback. You don't want people, I've been in writing groups where they're just like, they don't want any negative notes, and that's not good either. You do want
mhm.
notes. You do have to make the script better. And that's why I left one of my groups is nobody wanted to hear notes. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
well, if we're not going to give you notes, then how are you going to get better? And I'm not going to get better if you're just tearing my script apart, but none of these notes are helping me. Like, it's one thing to tear scripts apart, and it's another thing to give helpful notes. So I
Right.
don't believe in being negative. I think you can be kind and also give notes at the same time.
Sure. Sure. So, two more things here, really quick. Are there some movies, shows, books, or music that are inspiring you right now, or what are some things that are really sweeping you off your feet creatively?
Oh my goodness. That's a great question. So of course I'm gonna forget everything. Let me see. What did I just see recently? I just saw Hustle
Mm,
on Netflix, which I really loved with Adam Sandler. I love sports
yeah.
movies and TV shows. I love them. So that was really amazing. I'm trying to think of what are all my favorite TV shows. I'm watching so many I can never. I love what's on Peacock right now. So Girls Five Eva is one of my favorite shows. I think it's amazing. And then I'm trying to think of what my other favorite show that I'm watching on there. Oh well, I love what's that on Hulu? Murders in the Building, right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, yeah, only I think it's Only Murders in the Building, yeah, something like that.
Only Murders in the Building. But I love Steve Martin, and so you
That's
can't go
right.
wrong with Steve Martin. But like Steve Martin is literally like my favorite person ever.
Oh, great.
Um, So I love him so much, and Martin Short's so wonderful in that.
Mm,
So I love that show. I'm trying to think of what else I'm loving. I've been off and on watching on HBO, and I got back into it again. Is what is it? Taika Waititi, the
oh, the Pirate Show.
yeah, yeah. So like I started watching it, and then I was like, I don't know. And then everyone's like, no, it's so great, it's so great. I'm like, it is. And then I just started watching it again, and now I absolutely love it. And I'm like, I don't know why first time. So I don't know.
Yeah, the timing was a little off.
It's a little off. And like the thing with him too is like he can be so funny, but also like gruesome. And like the gruesome gets me. So I was like, oh, can I handle the gruesome? But so now I'm like really loving it again. And I'm just like when there's like a finger that gets cut off, I'm just like, it's okay, just ignore it. I have to talk myself out of it. And that was I think he does such a wonderful job. And he's so inspiring. I love his writing.
Oh, yeah.
He's this he just balances so much of like the funny and the humor and then like the backstories and he just does such a great job with all that. So
Mm.
I love that. And the other show I love on Peacock, I think Peacock's doing a really nice job, is Rutherford Falls. I love that
Oh,
show.
really? I'll have to check
Yeah, I
that
don't
out, I haven't heard that one.
oh my gosh, it's so wonderful. So it's a Native American community, and it's just so wonderful. Again, they just do such a great job of like, there's no stereotypes, and because the writing staff, a lot of them are Native American, so they're like getting away from the stereotypes.
Yeah.
So, there's no like white guy's bad, Native American's bad, Native American's good, white guy's bad. Like it's like they're all like, and they're like you love them all, and then you see their perspectives from all parts of it.
Mm.
So, I don't know, they just do such a great job of that, and I don't know, I think HBO is just, like, hitting home runs with all their shows. I like so many of their shows right now.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. HBO is really killing it right now. So
Killing it, like, everything that they're doing, I'm like, "Oh, great, another show I love," so
right. So lastly, I'm curious, what are you hopeful for in your creative journey, and
Mhm.
what are you looking forward to?
Well, I have different scripts with, like, so many people right now that are, like, my dream places. So I'm really kind of excited about that, and I guess that's something I would tell writers is, like, they always say, "Don't give up." But it's really interesting because I feel like so many of my contacts and connections and people I've known over the years and scripts I've been getting places, it almost seems like they're all, like, percolating at the same time, and it's like, I swear it almost I don't know if it's gonna happen this way, but it almost seems like a popcorn machine where it's like it could all be like, "And this one happens, and this one happens, and this one happens," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Are these really gonna all happen at the same time?" That would be so interesting. So, I think that's why it's like you gotta just keep writing and keep trying and keep getting better and, so we'll see. I'm just waiting to see like which stuff is gonna happen. But yeah, my I have scripts in like some amazing places in the hands of amazing places. So that's kind of exciting. So I'm just sort
Oh, that's
of,
amazing.
yeah. And then
That is incredible.
thank you. What was the second part of that question?
Yeah, generally what you're looking forward to, because I've been on this kick of finding optimism in this very dreary time. So I'm
Yeah.
just sort of like blindly hoping that my guest will be able to share some light. Some
So
of
looking
the,
forward to even outside of the film industry, you mean? Or
yeah, yeah, that helps too.
well, I guess I'm one of those people that looks at the glass half full always.
Mm,
And I think there's always something to find joy in and find positivity in. And sometimes I don't do this every day, but I do try to start my day with writing like three things that I'm thankful for. So I'm really big on gratitude.
mm.
So, I mean, I just look forward to, I love that we're, all getting back to doing stuff. I've been traveling with my son more for hockey. So
Oh, awesome.
I love that. Yeah. So that's really nice to have these trips that we're taking. But, even just looking forward to, it's a summer. I'm going to go to the beach. I love taking walks. I love walking my dog. So it's even just simple things. I don't need the grand things to make me feel positive. And to be honest, writing, I love writing, and I'm finishing my first novel.
Oh, great.
So
Oh, sorry, we
yeah, so
totally didn't get to that.
yeah, that's okay,
Oh,
but that's
goodness.
kind of exciting. So, and I feel like, as far as I don't know about all writers, I know the beginning of the pandemic was really hard, but like once I sort of just hunkered down, like I haven't written more than I've been during this pandemic because I was like, well, I love creating worlds. I'm just going to go inside my head and like write my own worlds. And I wrote so many scripts, and that's when I started my novel. I was like, okay, I don't care if the world's falling apart out there. I'm just going
Yeah.
to write. So I don't know. Writing is just my happy place. So I don't know. I feel like if you like to write, just write. Just, you don't know what's going to happen with it. And just if it makes you happy, just do it and find your people and then just put it out into the world and see what happens.
Oh, that's lovely. Lovely note to end on. And
Awesome.
Denise, I want to thank you so much for sharing these insights, for this wonderful creativity that you're bringing into the world, your amazing stories, and of course, thank you for making CRUZFEST possible. And so, if you want to come back, when your novel is on its way out into the world, please feel free to let me know. I'd be happy
Oh,
to
that would
learn
be
more about the
awesome.
project. And
Okay.
I want you to have your Sunday back, but I want to thank you again for your time.
Well, thank you so much. This was fun. I appreciate you having me on your podcast.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Denise, and I'll be in touch real
Okay.
soon.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Hey there. Before I go, I just wanted to thank you for listening to the podcast. If you're enjoying Arts Calling, please consider rating and reviewing the podcast wherever you listen to these episodes. Every little bit helps to bring awareness about these wonderful artists that we're featuring on this podcast. And don't forget to say hi. I'm over on Twitter at CruzFolio, and I would love to hear from you, love to know what you're working on, and I wish you the best in life and craft. Make art, make haste, and much love.